gifts and some of their talents. And we just want everybody to have a chance to meet these new artists and possibly support them. So today, the artist that I am going to be interviewing is one of my favorite people in the city, Mathias Jackson. So
What up, man?
Matthias, could you just introduce yourself, say what's up to the people, let them know who you are and what you do real quick.
Hey, what's up, the people? Man, how y'all feeling? My name is Matthias. Born and raised right here in Columbus, Ohio. Love my city, proud of my city. Proud of all the really, really amazing artists out there. I do comedy, poetry, show hosting. I do like curating and things like that. I'm actually I do show hosting with like Seventh Draft Poetry and Maroon Arts Group. I do show curation with both of those too. I also am getting in more and more so into like video work. Got a couple little short films and worked on most recently on a series called Where Two or More Are Gathered. But yeah, born and raised in the city, man. I got all my got all my skills right from the homeland, man. Okay. I don't know what we're calling it. I don't know if we can still call it Columbus, but the city formerly known as Columbus.
Right. We gonna figure something out. We might call it Mathias City, whatever.
Hey, you know what I'm saying?
Cool, but Mathias, he's a jack of all trades. I'm telling you, this man is so talented. He's also a comedian. So if you ever get a chance, check him out. He got skits that he done. He brings the best out of the people that he around. I'm telling you. So
I appreciate it. Listen, man, don't count yourself out of that, man. Me and you worked on that La Musica Fuego, man. That was that was a good time.
You brought it out of me, man. You brought it out of me. But so the first question I want to ask you, Matthias, is what would you consider your primary art form to be, and how did you find out that was your style of art?
Yo, that's a good question because, it's interesting. When I was a kid, I don't even say necessarily like, just when I was a kid, but like I was like 12, 13 years old, man. I had my first it was my 12, 13. I was like probably like 14, 15, somewhere around there. But I had my first phone and it was like this little Virgin Mobile jaunt, man. The graphics on that thing were terrible, man. It was horrible. I had a terrible time with that phone. But man, I used to do these little stop motion, and it's interesting because it had a feature on there where essentially you could record something and then if you could pause the recording and then continue it. So like that's kind of how we used to do it, when I was a kid. I feel so old saying stuff like that. That's how we used to do it back in my day. But man, yeah, so I would say, man, probably like video editing was like the first of all the stuff that I'm into now. Like that was kind of the first one that kind of showed up. But yeah, I kind of I don't want to say walked away from that, but got really, really interested in poetry and started doing and performing poetry a lot. I've done that probably the most out of anything else that I've done. And probably the most recent thing is, the comedy. But, I probably would feel like, it's probably a combination between like the comedy and the poetry. Mm-hmm. It's probably my primary, I would say, mostly because like I like to write funny poems.
Right.
And so, I kind of try to mix those two things in there, kind of as a collaboration of those arts. Man, I would definitely say that, the two of them is what, if people are looking for me or looking, to find me somewhere, you could probably find me in a place that's doing one of those two things. Yeah.
Okay. And what was real interesting about that is how you said video editing was one of your very first like art forms that you got into and you started to explore. Yeah. But what's interesting is most people know you for your poetry, but with the project that we're going to be discussing a little bit, once we get a little bit deeper, shows that you went back to your first true love and what you first started with. So when it comes to the poetry that you do, Matthias, has it ever been difficult for you to share poems? Or was it something you were just always comfortable with doing? Like, what do you feel like? Where do you find courage to do your poetry? And is it anything that's difficult, or does it just come to you naturally?
Honestly, man, I don't think it's ever been it. Maybe the mechanics of sharing the poetry, like, I think I've never been afraid of like looking embarrassed in public. So I think that sometimes works against me, but in a lot of spaces, I feel like that's kind of been my suit of armor, man. Like I can kind of get up on stage and say the things that I really want to say, and not really feel like, okay, what if this doesn't go over well? What if this poem is terrible? I mean, you're gonna have bad poems, have like bad work or whatever. But you have to in order to have the good work. You know what I mean? Wow. So I would definitely say, yeah, like it's not something that I never really struggled with. Yo, do I want to perform, or do I want to get out here and like perform this work? Mm-hmm. I think probably. I think probably with me, it's always just been like trying to find those spaces. And I didn't really kind of grow up super knowledgeable of all the spaces that I could kind of be out there and doing it in. So, once I kind of started getting a hold of that and, being able to go out of city, go out of state, and, kind of go to these like national slams and kind of performances, I was like, oh man, of course. Yeah. That's getting on stage. That's the easy part.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting, because I know a lot of people have stage fright. And they'll question, should I share this poem? Sometimes poetry is very, very personal for people. And a person can talk themselves out of doing that. So I find it real interesting that you're like the complete opposite, where you're like, I ain't afraid to be embarrassed, and I'm ready to say what it is I got to say, and I'm ready for the feedback, and whether it's good or bad. So that's
man. And the thing is, like, and I think that I don't think I gave enough credit to in the initial thing, but like, man, the OGs that I have here in Columbus, the people that really kind of set the path for me, the people that were there to kind of give critiques and stuff like that on my art. Like, one of the things they always say is like, yo, if you're gonna be in the room, you're gonna perform. Mm-hmm. And like probably one of the hardest things to do is kind of get out of rhythm or never get into the rhythm of performing. And that'd be the advice that I always try to give to people whenever they ask me, like, should I, if I go to this open mic, should I go to this open mic? I don't know if I'm ready to share this poem, so I'm not going to do anything. Like, you know what? The hardest thing for you to do is going to be like getting up there and doing it regularly. It's kind of the same thing with any kind of habit, man, like, or any skill. Like, most people, they didn't just start off really, really good at whatever field they're in. They had a whole bunch of trial and error, but they had to keep getting up at bat. So like, you just got to keep getting up there and putting yourself out there and doing it. And, don't be afraid to lose sometimes, man. I've lost a lot more slams than I've won. I'd probably say I've written a lot more bad poems than I've written good poems. You know what I mean? Like, you probably only hear the good poem more than once, but like, yeah, I've definitely like written a lot of poems and like failed at writing a lot of poems. So yeah, man, you just can't be afraid to be out there, just really digging into your craft, even if you're failing, and even if you're not doing exactly what you wanted to end up doing with the work, man. Right. As long as you're doing it, man, then that means you're growing and you're getting better.
Right. Okay. That's what's up. Up, because a lot of people are good at talking themselves out of doing something that they want to do, and art is one of those things, because sometimes people like to compare themselves to other people and say, oh, I'm not as good as that person, or this person is well established, they got a lot of attention, I'm not sure I can measure up to what they're doing. And with that's a great segue into the next question I'm gonna ask you. When the public health crisis started, you actually developed a project, and that project was called Where Two or More Are Gathered. And it involved artists, and they also had I guess you could say they had a job to do together. So my question to you is, what exactly was Where Two or More Are Gathered, and what did you have the artists do when they got together?
So essentially what it was is, man, I had this idea to be able to have a much more intimate set and to do something that I think would make two people kind of grow together a little bit more, and like the experience make people kind of go together a little bit more. And so essentially we put two artists that haven't done a lot of work, if any, together in a room. And, you know, we talked to them, I think it was like 2 weeks before we started recording. But I remember we sat down with them on Zoom, and we all talked about, okay, this was and the vision was essentially just bringing all these artists together and having them work together and having them work a set out together. Yeah. And we sat them down together and we kind of told them the vision. And then 2 weeks later, we started recording. And, oh man, I mean, I want to say like that as an experience, probably as like an artistic experience, was like incredibly eye-opening, because you never know what you can create with another person. And I think when you're doing something by yourself, it's like cool, and it's like I think you probably get a much more condensed version of your idea. But when you're working with somebody else, I think that you're able to build on each other's strengths. And we got to see that, like, we had 4 different sessions. And so for 4 different sessions, we got to see, you know, people come together, you know, in ways that they had not come together before. And, you know, really they did their art. I mean, we had singers, poets in there, and the series, you know, hopefully, I mean, we're going to be able to continue it, but like so far, man, we've had singers, poets, rappers, and kind of all of them condensed in this space where and we had like the art and stuff like that in the gallery as we were recording too, but we kind of had them all in that space, and they were just working together to, you know, express this artistic vision that they created over that 2 weeks.
Got you. Okay. So what's interesting about that is, I know as artists are evolving, and they're finding comfort with themselves and what they create, whether it be a poem, a song, if it's an instrument that they play, something that they drew or paint, that your creative space belongs to you. It's something that's it's not easy to share with another person. So my question to you is, what do you think caused the artists that you had that were part of Where Two or More Gathered to work together so easily? Because I've seen some people struggle when it comes to working together. So what was it inside of your mind that lets you know for a fact that if you put these artists together, that things are going to run smooth?
I think it's probably a mixture of 2 things. Like, it's like respect and talent. Because I think that everybody that we chose and anybody that we would choose, like, I think that there are people that in our community, in our artist community, I look at them and I'm like, you see these people at open mics and at features, and you're like blown away by their talent, and you're blown away by, you know, just like the things they can do on stage with their work. Right. And so it's really invigorating to just see their talent level. But then it's also that respect, man, because like these are also people that carry themselves a lot of integrity when it comes to their art, carry themselves a lot of integrity with regards to themselves and maneuvering throughout the community. Community advocates, man. We had educators up there. We had people that were, you know, that were just, all of them, you know, in their own ways, do a lot of work for the community, do a lot of work for the people that we all love and see on a, you know, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So, man, I think that when you put 2 people like that together, you know, no matter what your, you know, thoughts are, and you're like, man, I gotta be about myself, and I gotta write this. No matter what your thoughts are, man, you recognize the person sitting next to you is like an immensely talented, incredibly talented artist that, you know, is going to do this thing justice, man. It's almost like, man, I almost felt like Pat Riley putting together Wade and LeBron. I just felt like, you know, sitting back there like, oh man, this is really, I don't, like, like they don't even understand, like, that there's an alley-oop that just happened, and I'm just like, man, that was the vision, man, because they knew, man, what you know, neither of those guys, man, they didn't feel like, oh man, I'm too talented to sit next to this guy and try to perform next to this guy. He's gonna crowd my space on the court, like that. Both of them felt like, man, they had stuff to give, and you know, it was a work of art, kind of watching that. And I'm like, same thing here, man. You put 2 people together that are that immensely talented and respected and respectable, you're gonna get good things every time.
Yeah. Wow. Dang, that's deep. I never thought about it like that because, like you said, you thought the alley, you had to plan that out a little bit, but when it was LeBron and Wade, it was so smooth, man.
Wow, man.
It was like it was nothing. They was
listen, man. I remember legitimately every single time, like there'd be moments in those sets where I would look at you like, yo, like,
yeah,
this, and it's always like you think it's gonna be something like, I don't even want to say like, that I don't expect for something new to happen that really revigorates me, but I'm like every single set I was like, man, I had a thought that this was gonna be good, but what y'all did there, I had no way of ever knowing that. I had no way of ever knowing that you were gonna do that, and like being able to produce it out and like kind of seeing it, I was like, oh, it'd be hard for them to do a bad job with it as talented as they are. So like, yeah, man, that's a great time.
That's good because I think all artists want an opportunity to show their art. Period.
Yeah.
And it's always a blessing when artists can get paid for doing that. But
right.
And I know that you did compensate the artists for showing up, but I think artists want to make sure whatever it is that they're sharing, that is respected. And what I saw throughout that whole process in video after video, I saw an immense respect for the artists with each other, and also the way artists felt about you and they felt comfortable with you. So my next question to you is, what is your process to making sure that artists feel comfortable with you as the person that's reaching out to them? Because if you want to hire them or you want them to show their art, how do you make them feel comfortable enough to do those things without feeling like they're being exploited or taken advantage of?
Man, I think probably primarily, and especially the stuff when it comes like the video work, man, I know myself as an artist, one of the things that I despise is like when people bring me in to essentially be more or less a puppet in their vision. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm bringing you in, like the primary thing I'm bringing you in is as creative. You know what I mean? So like, I see your field. You know what I mean? I take, for example, somebody like Trigno, the rapper. Like I think a lot about, man, when we brought, there was the first session that we did, and I remember I've known Trigno for years. You know what I mean? And so, I would never put Trigno in a position where I'm like, okay, I want you to rap this song and I want you to do it here. And there might be people that are like, okay, this is how they want a show to go or something like that. But I was like, yo, like I can give a framework. And that's the thing that we saw every single time. I was like, I want to give a framework for you to be able to be yourself in and to outwork a vision in. And realistically, this isn't like I'm just pointing a camera at you kind of in this space. We ask questions here and there just to, kind of pick their brains. But man, like realistically, this, like the entire experience was about the artist, man. It was about, what they wanted to bring to the table. And that's really, I just take the things that I really appreciate about, being, when people bring me in, if they want me to participate in their project, of like, okay, I appreciate it when people are like, yo, like, what do you think you should do kind of with this space and that kind of thing. So, it's just really it's really about, letting artists be themselves, letting artists, express this thing and pull off a project that is entirely them. And then just knowing where to kind of cut in and be like, okay, so my space is just going to be recording and editing. Like that's it. You know what I mean? Like I know where I'm standing, so I don't have to get involved in this stuff that y'all are doing. It's going to turn out like, cause I know how y'all are going to make it turn out. So also paying them does not hurt. I'll say that. And that's something that I appreciate about Columbus too, man, because I think people in Columbus, man, I think more now than ever, starting to realize like, yo, man, these are artists. You're bringing in creative talent, man. You got to put that. They got bills. You know what I'm saying? I got a light on or two right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's always It's always good to put some money in their pocket.
Yeah, I'm on stage performing poems for you. I'm going home to a dark house. All I got is milk in the fridge, man.
Oh man, I had to buy the Dasani last week, man. I need that check immensely quick.
Oh shoot!
I pull off his TI words expeditiously.
Wait, so I got another question since we're on that topic. When it comes to artists being paid,
yeah,
what do you think causes somebody that may be genuinely interested in somebody but not think to pay them? What is it about artists that makes people think that? No, I'm sorry. What is it about people that want to book artists that makes them think that?
You know what I think, and it's something that's interesting because you can't really find it in other fields, but there's this idea around artists that artists want to. It's kind of how artists want to perform. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like I write a poem, I want people to see it, I want people to hear it. You know, somebody writes a rap, somebody, writes an R&B song, somebody paints a painting, you know what I'm saying? Like so much of the things that we do, I know there's a lot of, we do it for ourselves, but a lot of it is for public consumption. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that there's this idea that artists want to show what they have so bad that all I have to do is it's almost like a service that I'm providing the platform. Right. And so a lot of people and again, I don't think it's necessarily even like it's not a malicious thing. Right. Maybe not in every case. There might be some cases where there's some malicious intent, but I think in a lot of cases, man, it's just this thought that like, yo, I got this stage, I got this area, I'm bringing this artist, I'm bringing the audience in, you know what I'm saying? I'm marketing and I'm doing all that stuff. And all this person has to do is come in and do what they want to do anyway. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think that it's just a misconception. You know what I mean? I think it's like they're not looking at it like, okay, you're not just booking to come in here and say a poem. You're booking the fact that, I spent a lot of time trying to learn form, trying to learn, ways to write the poem, trying this poem out at several other open mics, all this other stuff, refining this thing, creating this thing, and hopefully bringing you a good show. You're paying for stage presence. You're paying for the person that to come in. You're paying for the time. There's a lot of other things that kind of go into it. And I think a lot of people don't really kind of factor that in because they don't see art like that. They think of it as a very ethereal, oh, this person just loves to do it. Yeah, get him on here and do this poem. Right. Do it. But yeah, it's it's just a misconception is all. I don't think a lot of times it's necessarily malicious. It's just a misunderstanding of, kind of what that relationship is like or should be.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's interesting because, like what you said, how you really don't find it in any other profession. It seems like it's always the artist that's not being paid, but sometimes the artist can be the actual draw for whatever event is going on. Or
typically it is. That's the wild thing.
Mm-hmm. It's real interesting how, but like you said, I don't think it's malicious either. But I definitely think we're in a time where people are starting to recognize that we have to respect our artists. We have to make sure that we take care of them the best way that we can. So thank you for shedding a little bit light on that, man. That was pretty deep. I appreciate that. So
no doubt.
What we're going to do is take just a little quick break and shift a little bit. So every week we like to provide a trivia question to the people that are watching. Last week's winner was Jennifer Bender. And this week, we're looking for a new winner. And you will get a gift card if you actually get the question correct. So, Mathias, you have a trivia question for the people that are watching. Could you share that question with them right quick?
Okay, so it's a question about, man, one of my favorite childhood spots. Mm-hmm. What side of town is Clown Cone on?
So, if y'all didn't hear that, he asks, what side of town is Clown Cone on? Now, I know some of y'all might not be from that side of town, but I know you know what clown cone is. You can be in Worthington.
Some people don't.
Nah, you gotta know what clown cone is. Everybody know what that is.
You would think. You would think, man.
Nah. Come on, man. Don't do that.
I'm just saying.
They know what clown cone is.
I ran into some people that didn't understand. They didn't know, man. I immediately unfriended them. You know what I'm saying? I immediately was like, okay, so clearly this friendship is not going in a good direction, and I ended it. But
got you. Okay. So did we get a answer from anybody yet? Tech team, did we get an answer from anyone yet? I'm waiting to see if we got an answer real quick. That is not the answer. Someone said outside. That is not the answer. We're gonna just spend a little bit more time on this. We're gonna spend a little bit more time because they should know this, Mathias. They should know this.
That's the problem, man. They don't even know, man.
Clown cone is a classic.
Listen, man. I remember being 7 years old, man, walking up in the clown cone. My uncle used to live in them apartments right behind there. So whenever I would go over there, man, it would be, the new time, summer. I go in there and get a slushie for 70 cents. You know what I'm saying? Get some candy. Right. I go in there with $2. I walk away with a bag and some slushie. Man, come on, man. That's it, man. That's childhood, man.
Oh, man.
I feel sorry for people's childhood if they didn't have no clown cone in their life.
Right. Clown cone. I'm not even a big ice cream eater. Like, I'm not big on ice cream, but I do remember when I went there, I was excited, I was happy, and I was satisfied. So
it's a happy place, man.
Okay.
It really is.
So we're gonna be able to come back, when people are watching this stream later on, we'll be able to come back and check that answer and see who got it. But let's continue on with the interview.
Cool.
So Mathias, right now there's a major shift taking place when it comes to social justice, when it comes to communities, when it comes to recognition of situations and stories. My question to you is, what role do artists have in documenting that story?
That's a good question, man. You know what I think, and I think this happens a lot because, and especially in artist spaces when it comes to open mics and stuff like that, you hear a lot of poems in a row, right? And so, and I think especially when something happens, when something really pivotal on the United States scene, or even if it's just like local Ohio, even as local as just like Columbus, right? You're gonna hear a lot of work and stuff like that around it. I think artists have the ability to kind of distill a lot of the stuff that's happening. I mean, especially if, depending on the scope that you're looking at it through, and if you're trying to take some interesting dimensions and some interesting ways to kind of get to the situation, they have the ability to kind of paint this, whatever is going on or whatever they have going on in their lives in a way that can reach people, because that's really what a lot of art does. Like a lot of art, it kind of cuts through a lot of the confusion and hopefully kind of connects some dots for people. You know what I mean? And so I think that's art does that a lot. But I'll say, as far as artists are concerned, I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if I would say an artist in specific has like a job. Maybe, because I'm like, if your heart isn't in the place to write about this kind of stuff, or to kind of be activated towards this kind of stuff, like, I would never be like, oh, nah, you need to get up there and give me this protest poem or else. You know what I mean? Right. Like, that would never be my place, but I definitely think that artists have the ability to do that. In a lot of the same ways that there's like comedians that, I think can do a lot of work towards that, being funny, or
right.
Comedy, I think, kind of breaks the ice in a lot of spaces. Same thing with people who do like 2D art, like paintings and stuff like that, sculptors, 3D, when it comes to like 3D art. So like everybody kind of has a way to kind of maybe bridge the gap and kind of explain something in a way that, isn't necessarily two people arguing or shouting across, a Twitter thread between each other.
Right.
But it's something that I think it can bond over and relate to people over.
Okay. Quick question: is ClownCon still open? Because people still talking about ClownCon. Is it still open?
It's. I mean, I don't think it's open during the right now.
Okay.
But it's like in generally it's open. I know.
Okay.
That's for sure. It was a couple. I just drove past there. I think it was like last week, just to just to be around it. I had to get the aura.
Because I think they about to pick up business after you asked them that question. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen real quick.
Don't see about it.
Right.
Y'all didn't have it in y'all life before me. Y'all welcome.
Right. So Mathias, so with the artists that you had that were a part of Where Two or More Gathered, I know that some of their work is about healing. Some of their work or songs, poems, whatever they have, may address social justice. So my question to you is, when it comes to that project in particular and some of the content that the artist had, how could that be addressing what's going on, or how could that be healing some of the people that are looking at what's taking place and they're feeling like, I'm confused, I don't know what to do? How can that project and those artists and their content be something that's beneficial and helpful to those people that hear it?
Hey, man, it's interesting because I remember like while we were watching each one, kind of thinking like each of these kind of took on their own identity, man. Each of these things, even if these artists had never worked together before, like most of them had never even worked together on stuff like that before. It was like they worked together and it felt like they were working towards like something like a common theme. I would probably say, man, when it comes to healing and when it comes to kind of a lot of reparative work. The one that I think kind of gravitated a lot more towards like that region was Mir and Shamika's. I remember watching that one and like just man, it's kind of hard because like tonally, man, Mir singing, Mika's poetry to both of their writing, man, I think it did some really, really good work because it was a lot of happiness. There was a lot of like cheer, but there was also, we kind of dug in deep a little bit. We kind of got beneath the skin and we kind of started revealing some of the stuff that, a lot of, we don't maybe talk about a lot or we don't want to, express a lot of the time. But we ended on a really positive note, and a really inspirational note, a song that Mir did. And I think throughout the course of that process, man, I was watching them, and I think I felt, happiness, and I think that's like kind of the thing, especially right now, man. There's so much stuff happening. There's so much stuff happening without even considering we're also going through an entire pandemic, and so when you factor everything in, there's so much anxiety, man. There's so much like real tangible fear, and I think it was good to kind of operate in this space where we're like, okay, we can be funny, we can be like kind of cheery, kind of in that process as well, while we're kind of introspective and digging into those things. Let's not forget, like, okay, we're human beings. We need to be able to laugh every once in a while. We need to be able to like find some joy, and I think all of them kind of did that in one aspect or another. But that one in specific, I think it kind of brought out a lot of like happiness, because it took us through a journey, but then it's like once we're out of the journey, we're like, oh man, daydreaming.
Yeah.
We're out
here. It was intense, man. Especially the two that you had said. After seeing it, I was like, wow, this feels like a therapy session, a crying session, a love session. Just all the feelings and emotions that you can feel. All of those things were brought out of you. You heard the content that they had and how they paired it up and put it together. That was amazing. That was so amazing, man. So, Mathias, as much as we talking about art and all these other artists, I'm going to have to ask you, before we close out and finish up, would you be willing to share a poem with us?
Yeah, I could probably share a poem.
Just a quick just a quick poem. Let us hear just a little bit of what you got, because you know you
Man,
one of my favorites. I love, like I said, this guy is one of the most witty, good with the wordplay people I've ever seen in my life. Later
I'm
on, you
alright.
catch what he said. You like,
Don't
oh, did he really say that?
don't let them gas me.
Nah, that's the game. That's the game that he likes to play. That's the game he likes to play. But
uh,
so what I love most about Matthias' work is the wittiness and the wordplay, and how much thought actually goes into what he creates. Because there's so many different ways to execute your point and share your art, especially in a poem. And there's so many different ways to do it, but I feel like Matthias has conquered his style, and when he does it and when it comes out, it just flows together so smooth. You can tell that he went over it and edited and took this out, put that in there, made it that long on purpose so it could come out the way it comes out. So, you know, if you haven't heard
I
much of his
appreciate
poetry
that, man.
before, you need to get on top of that. You need to. So you ready, Matthias?
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. So, like, what do you want to hear? I guess it's up to you. Like, what would you like to hear? I got my Daniel selling his mixtape, John. I can do Kobe. That's like an old favorite. What do you think?
I'm feeling the Kobe, man. I'm feeling the Kobe.
Feeling the Kobe?
Yeah,
All
just
right.
the Kobe.
So yeah, this is a poem called Kobe. I wrote it. Ooh, man, 6 years ago. Man. But rest in peace to Kobe. Rest in peace to DG. When it came to Kobe, guys in my neighborhood had the perfect elocution. Now, sure, we pronounce ass like axe, and what time is it? Like, hey, yo, run that watch. But Kobe's always said to the very height of the Urban Dictionary standard, you can't say it's some regular old way. You got to arc your shot. Imagine reaching into a cookie jar. Now take a gust of wind between the back of your tongue and the roof of your mouth. You let it out just above a whisper, one octave higher than your natural speaking tone. It sounds like Kobe. Yeah, that's how you know your shot's good. Broadcasters say he sinks the trifecta. We call that the safe passage home. It's so ingrained in our vernacular that none of us had the slightest clue how to mispronounce Kobe. When Anthony Belmont turned black tops into moon landings, he became our chosen one. We'd wire pride and shame across our faces as he shot on us every time. Yo, when playing in the cages, it's always best of 5-on-5. And if Belmont's on your squad, that's a clean sweep. And if he sprays you from the line, you got 409. Tuck them threes in the holster on your side and shout out Olympic pride. All you ever heard was Kobe. Anthony Belmont is brought down by 3 straight bullets on the corner of Minnesota and Purdue. Investigators called it a cold case as soon as they arrived on the scene. His blood still pushing steam off of itself into a 7 a.m. shadow. Investigators look for black guns and drugs. And if they find them all wrapped up in the same body, they don't bother searching no more. You know, on the news that night, he's a 4th story reported on. It's right behind ways to keep your child warm in cold weather. It's in the segment. It's called Barry on the Scene. Now, Barry calls Anthony a man found dead. It felt so 2006. You know, it felt like ripping off old jerseys. It felt like 8 turning 24 right in our television screens, and why our boys gotta be men only after they expire. Yo, what happened to our boy? Barry said bullets fly into Black Basin and get swallowed whole. And he didn't report any more facts, although he did illustrate. He pointed his finger and his thumb, and he goes, bang, bang, bang. But if Barry knew any better, he would have said, Kobe, Kobe, Kobe. That's a black top full of unfinished destiny. Kobe, written in the books already. Kobe, purple and gold, stalking streets he don't belong to. Black Mamba, Cobra, Kobe, victim of black, victim of guns, victim of drugs. You hand him the rock and he will make a whole shot clock stand still. And here we are. We don't even mourn the right way. We just like eulogies on moon landings for our homie, Anthony Belmont. for like a safe passage home. Kobe.
Come on, man. Listen, if y'all didn't pick up on it, like that's a giant metaphor from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's speaking about the experience that young black men go through, and it's so loaded. But I ain't gonna sit here and break it down. If you want to learn more about Mathias, please check him out. Check out his YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Mathias, can you tell us how people can find your project with two or more gathered?
Where two or more gathered is actually everything is in one of two places. So you can find all 4 episodes posted on the Maroon Arts Group. I actually got my Maroon Arts Group shirt on right now. But yeah, Maroon Arts Group on Facebook. All the episodes are posted on there, and it's also posted on our YouTube page, Maroon Arts Group on YouTube, just where two or more gathered. Yeah.
Ooh. And how can people also check out your podcast that you and your wife have together?
Stress and Blessed, yes. Check us out on it's Stress and Blessed Show on Instagram, and it's Stress Blessings on Twitter. But if you just look up myself or my wife, I am Mathias J Speaks on Twitter and Instagram, and my wife is Moons at Dusk on Instagram and Twitter. If you look us up there, you'll see some clips and some stuff like that from Stressed and Blessed, and the Instagram got some of our little short skits and stuff like that.
Cool. That's what's up. So definitely check them out. I mean, their content is so good. They actually viral right now with a picture. I'm just saying.
Nah, we went viral twice. We did it twice? We did it with the Rosa Parks jaunt.
Yeah.
So we did it with that. And then Shade Room actually just posted the Black Love one. So
okay,
we in a couple places.
Look,
you know
this is the content that he produces, him and his wife produces. Y'all, if y'all don't know Mathias Jackson, please check my friend out. This man is amazing. One of the most amazing artists that we have in the city. Gotta support our local talent. Mathias, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate you for everything that you do, and I hope that you continue on with everything you're doing. Okay, it looks like we probably lost Mathias, but everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be back again next week. I'm going to be interviewing a mural artist in the city named Francesca Miller. She's been doing a lot of murals, and I think she has a lot of stories to share about her experience. So I'll be seeing you again next week on Thursday, 4:30 at the same time, where Art Tells a Story. I'm Donte Woods-Spikes, and thank you. We out. We leave, Mathias. We good.